Hello, my name's Dr. Fee and I'd like to welcome you to Practical Counselling Skills Looking at Bereavement. This is part 2 of a series of 3. If you haven't joined me previously for part 1, may I recommend that you look at that where we looked at the grief cycle. All my tutorials are available on practicalcounsellingskills.co.uk. So today I'm looking at salt jars and the use of salt jars in the counselling room. Salt jars are created by the client with the assistance of the counsellor and are used to capture and make concrete happier memories from prior to the bereavement so that the client has something concrete to look at and to take home with them. For salt jars you will need clean jars with the labels removed, table salt, regular salt, not rock salt or dishwasher salt, chalks or chalk pastels, paper plates, a funnel if you're using a bottle or a glass jar with a small neck, wet wipes for the client's hands at the end, a small notepad and pen to record what each layer in the jar means, and for the counsellor at the end of the session, a dustpan and brush. Okay, so what we need for this is a clean glass jar. You'll see I've removed all the labels and I've painted over the lid so there's no branding. Today I'm using chalk pastels. I actually prefer chalk pastels to ordinary chalks. I think they give a deeper and richer colour to the salt when we're working with it. So the way we start is we put some salt onto the paper plate and we talk to the client about perhaps something they would like to remember from the bereaved person. It doesn't matter what it is, but we ask the client to choose a colour to represent that memory. So for the purpose of this one, I'm going to choose red to represent a trip to the theme park. So I would invite the client to rub the colour into the salt. You can see that as the client does this, the salt quickly takes on the colour of the pastel. This rubbing is quite a therapeutic experience for the client, and while we are rubbing the salt with the colour, I will be asking the client for details about the reminiscence that they have, capturing all the nuances of that experience prior to their bereavement. When the client feels that the colour is right, we just tap in the sides to make sure all the salt is mixed, and then either me or the client will tip it as the first layer into their memory jar. Now what is important is for the client to keep a record of what each layer represents. Glass jars are often not completed within one session, and therefore it's important that when you bring the glass jar back into the session, you are able to talk to the client about the previous layers as well as the ones that they are adding in session. So once the client has finished completing their salt jar, there may actually be a gap left at the top, and you need to fill this with the salt right to the very top, because otherwise when the client takes this home, just moving it around could disturb the layers. So now that is secure and ready to go with the client. At this stage, probably you and the client have quite a lot of salt and colour on your hands, so I would offer the clients some wet wipes to clean themselves up with. And also, not all the salt makes it into the jar, and often there's quite a bit of spillage. This I would clear up once the client had left with the dustpan and brush and prior to the next client. It's funny, salt grit seems to get everywhere, and if you can contain it and sweep it up fairly quickly, it just holds it in place a bit more. And now we're ready to go and give the jar to the client. Okay, so here are some glass jars, replicas of glass jars that I have created with clients. You will notice that the layers aren't level, and quite often the clients like that. There's no rule here. You can have them level or not level according to what the client wants. And you can see on a couple of them that we have topped them up with the salt, with the white salt at the end of the session, so that they are ready for the client to take home. One other example that I used, I had a client who had lost a drinking buddy through a car accident, and so he chose to do his salt memory jar in a beer bottle, and you can see the different layers here. And so that's a replica of the beer bottle he created, and he took that home, and I believe he put it on his home bar as a memory so he could still drink with his drinking buddy. Many of the clients find that it's really nice to take these home. It's very personal, and the memories are just ones that they had and have created and made solid. So it is a very attractive way of remembering a loved one or a great friend.